Latter-day Trumpet. This is a Latter-day Trumpet presentation that is an exciting new video about the Book of Mormon. Disclaimer. There are many church scholars that believe that the Lehigh colony landed in South America. This series of videos reflect those ideas and theories and should not be considered as official church doctrine. The City of Nephi, Part 2. The navel of the world, the center of the universe, Cusco, Peru. The City of Nephi. There are clearly at least 15 characteristics of the City of Nephi that define the city that we can glean from verses in the Book of Mormon. Certainly we know more about the City of Nephi than any other city in our ancient text. It is pretty exciting to review them here. Number 1. It was a historical capital city of many different cultures. 2. There were high towers at the temple and at the resort. The temple was built after the manner of the construction of Solomon's temple, meaning that this was a building built of beautifully carved stone by stone masons that were expert in their craft. Number 4. The temple was the center point or focal point of the city. Number 5. The temple of Nephi had beautiful gardens. 6. There is a lower or older portion of the City of Nephi that was built first. Number 7, the upper or newer portion of the city is called Shiblon, which was built by wicked King Noah. Number 8, there was a defensive resort associated with the City of Nephi. Today it is called the Fort of Saskatchewan. Number 9, the City of Nephi was a walled city. Number 10, the Lamanite city nearby was called Shemlon. 11, there was a Lamanite bath or place of rest. Number 12, there had to be an agricultural breadbasket to support millions of people in the area. Number 13, Nephi was an immense treasure city and temple city. Number 14, the city was located in an area where there was gold for making plates for record keeping and other precious metals for making useful tools. Number 15, the City of Nephi had a back pass or secret passageway. These 15 characteristics, detailed from the scriptures, define the City of Nephi and are all found in the city of Cusco, Peru. In fact, it is the only ancient city from the right time period in the Americas that satisfy all 15 characteristics. The resting place or sacred fountains of Tremblay near Saskatchewan and the city of Cusco are shown here. They would have been a perfect spot for the wicked priests of King Noah to kidnap the Lamanite princesses. This is a picture of the world-famous beautiful ruins of Machu Picchu. Were discovered in 1911 by Hiram Bingham from Yale University. Researchers found mostly the remains of women, and so they called the city of the women. It could easily have been the hiding place of Amulon and his wicked priests and the wicked priests of Noah when they captured the Inca princesses. Cusco is surrounded by rich farmland that over the centuries has supported many herds and crops to sustain the millions of inhabitants of the Inca Empire and the land of Nephi. The Incas were also famous for their beautiful system of roads that they built to connect all of their cities and lands. A network of road systems were built anciently of more than 3,000 miles in length. Many of these roads are still usable and still visible today. When Francisco Pizarro conquered the capital city of the Incas, or Cusco, on November 15, 1533, he entered the city without a shot being fired. Francisco's small army would have been no match for the huge Inca army of 200,000 warriors. However, he was heralded as the great bearded white god Huiracocha, or Jesus Christ, that had been prophesied would come in peace and rule their kingdom righteously. The great puma had been captured and tamed. The once proud mountain lion of Peru and the city of Cusco was now subject to a different power. Originally, the city was a simple, beautiful valley in the tops of the Andean mountains with 3 converging rivers at its base. Over time, the city grew, and a newer section. Over time, the city grew into a great city and capital. There was a lower or older original city called Huron, and then a newer section directly to the north called Hannan, which now comprises all of the modern government buildings, cathedrals, and the Plaza de Armas, or main city square. Obviously, the newer part of the city was built by wicked King Noah. and you can see the newer part of the city in this diagram. This is how the beautiful city of Cusco looks today, nestled in this mountain valley 11,000 feet above sea level. This is the resort talked about in the Book of Mormon, or fortress of Saskatchewan. 3 rows of battlements, 18 feet tall, an amazing colossal structure that was a formidable fortress. Here is a close-up of the lower city of Cusco, with the Avenue of the Sun and the Temple of Coricancha in the middle picture, with its beautiful garden area. Underneath the Avenue of the Sun, a ground-penetrating radar study done by scientists in the year 2000 depicts the famous ancient tunnels that were hidden. The secret tunnels could be the secret back pass where Gideon guided Limhi and the Nephites by night out of the city into safety and to escape their Lamanite overseers. These tunnels were sealed up by the Spanish and Inca leaders in the 16th century because of the danger to explorers. It is rumored that the Incas hid up all of their temple treasure and gold in the tunnels before the Spanish conquistadors arrived in Cusco. The city square, or Plaza de Armas, at the center of the city is shown here. Another tunnel runs perpendicular to the Avenue of the Sun underneath the plaza. At the end of our video, we need to have a discussion about the Temple of Coricancha, or the Temple of Nephi, the most sacred building in all of South America. The construction of the Temple of Nephi was built after the manner of the Temple of Solomon. What does that mean? Nephi lived in Jerusalem as a young man, and he was familiar with the Temple of Solomon and how it was built of large stone expertly cut and finished and perfectly placed by gifted stonemasons. So Nephi built his temple, obviously in like manner. Here's an artist's rendition of how the overall building looked. This museum model of the temple shows the outer wall with the temple structure inside and the temple garden area in the foreground. Today, the Cathedral of Santo Domingo sits on top of the Temple of Coricancha with the rounded sunroom exposed in front of us in the foreground. In 1950, when the cathedral was last destroyed by an earthquake, the Peruvian government would not let the Catholic Church rebuild their cathedral on top of the Coricancha walls as was previously done. So now 4 of the 7 rooms are exposed for tourists to see and visit on tour. Note the finely polished and carved hard granite andesite stonework that makes this temple so exquisite. The famous windows of Coricancha can be seen on a tour of the temple. However, a normal person needs to stand on a large stone to see the miracle of the windows perfectly extending for eternity, suggesting great symbolism of the temple ceremonies. And also that the original people who built the temple were much larger and taller than the normal population today. Also notice the interesting style of construction and engineering. It is built in an ancient Egyptian manner so as to make the building look like it is leaning. The great granite stones are larger at the base and grow smaller on each higher course as the walls go up in height, giving it a leaning look. Also, the oblong lintels across the doorways are all of Egyptian design. This is the finest example of beautiful stonework in all of Peru, and maybe the entire world. Pizarro's men were said to have removed 700 plates of pure gold off from the walls of the temple that were 2 feet by 4 feet tall and a 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch thick. These temple wall coverings were melted down into ingots for easy dispersal to the Spanish conquistadors. The temple garden are famous. Originally, there were 5 fountains, but only one was working on our last visit. Rich Inca nobles presented temple gifts annual to the Inca king for centuries as tribute and for an offer of allegiance to the king, thus enriching the temple and the garden immensely. An ingenious system of stone pipes and pools kept the garden irrigated and beautiful. Here's our overall artist schematic diagram of the sacred temple. This temple was the center of the lower city, or the navel of the puma. It was the center of their universe and most sacred. Today, native believers are supposed to remove their shoes within 200 feet of the temple because they are walking on sacred ground. There are 4 roads leading away from the temple to the 4 quarters of the earth. The temple splits the city into 4 quadrants and the cardinal points of the compass. It is truly the center of Cusco, or the City of Nephi, the temple of God. Thus the City of Nephi at Cusco, Peru, was the city of the children of God, where they worshipped Him in their sacred and holy temple.